to EMA's Health and Safety podcast. My name is Kevin Chambers. I'm very pleased that you could be here with us today. We've got a very, very interesting guest today and a very interesting topic. Sitting next to me is Tracy Meyer, and she is the owner of Brightcore Drivers.
Yep.
And we're going to discuss how Brightcore Drivers can be of use in the field of health and safety. So firstly, Tracy, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to spend some time with us.
Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about Brightcore Drivers and perhaps how they could relate to the field of health and safety?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. Brightcore Drivers is not another personality test.
No, it's not.
That's the first thing to say.
Yep.
Brightcore Drivers was innovated in 2012,
Yep.
and it is based on the PERMA model, which is positive psychology,
Yep.
which came out in 2011. So personality tests are 100 years old,
Yep.
and they needed to be something newer, fresher, and actually meeting people where they're at in the modern workplace. So Brightcore Drivers looks at self-determination theory, which looks at things, for example, with your level of autonomy. How autonomous do you need to be? And how that drives you and why that matters. In terms of health and safety, why it matters is if you get clear on your drivers, some people don't even know what their drivers are.
Yep.
And getting clear on your drivers really supports and helps leaders have better conversations and really tune in. And I think a lot of people ask for high-performance teams, but you can't have high-performance teams unless some of the basic needs are being met.
Yeah.
And leaders are not mind readers.
No. And therefore, you knowing your own core drivers, but also knowing the core drivers of members of your team
Yes.
can help, I don't want to say improve the communication, but can add to the communication process, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. One size does not fit all.
Yep.
It really doesn't. And I think one of the things that people most want is to be seen, heard, and understood.
Mm-hmm.
So once they've got clear on what their core drivers are and can start aligning with their team members, it actually reduces a lot of friction and a lot of conflict.
Yep.
So one of the things that the core drivers certainly does do is has a section where you, first of all, understand what drives you, what your human needs are. Physical needs are so easy to identify. If you're hungry or thirsty, you'll get something to eat or drink.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know what our human needs are until we have run out of energy and we leave the company because our tank has run dry.
And when you talk about our human needs, you're talking about what motivates us. We're talking about sort of our psychosocial well-being, if you will.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And so often people, depending on their level of emotional intelligence,
Yep.
have got no idea of what their needs are, let alone someone else's needs. When needs are not met, eventually, not only do they run out of energy, but accidents and mistakes start happening. They show up all the time.
Yep.
So, it's easy to see if someone's physically tired. Their eyes might be a bit red. They might give a yawn at work. You can see physical tiredness. Mental tiredness is invisible. So the core drivers is able to pick up on that and make the invisible visible.
Okay. Let's take a case study, and let's use me as a case study. Okay, so my two core drivers, to me, they seem quite different, and I'm not asking you to analyse into what it is, but just if I'm in a workplace, my core drivers are innovation and stability.
That's right.
So let's imagine that I'm in a workplace, and I've got a leader, I've got my manager, and my manager is wanting to have a positive impact on me.
Yes.
And the outcome that we're after, of course, is good health and safety outcomes.
Yes.
Just give us a little bit of insight about these two core drivers, innovation and stability.
Yeah. So a lot of it starts with role alignment. And in terms of, for example, the work that you do,
Yep.
You're able to innovate, you're able to think of bright ideas, you're able to think outside of the square.
Yep.
And really do some impactful things, like exactly what we're doing right now. This is highly innovative. In the second core driver that you have is stability. So the environment that would support your mental health and well-being is one that is stable, one that has guardrails in place, structures, financial stability. So, for example, if you were to swap out and work for a startup and it was in that early seed stage where there is tends to be, unless there's funding, there is very little process. Your core driver for innovation would be met, but your core driver for having a stable environment with process and procedures and good health and safety, for example, might not exist.
So that's really interesting. So if we go back then to my core drivers and the one in stability, so an established company will have established safe operating procedures,
Correct. Yes.
And for me to feel safe and for me to be able to behave in a safe manner, having good procedures in place will add to my ability to do my job safely.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. If you were in a space where everything was chaotic and there was no policies around health and safety, your energy would start depleting to the extent that you would start having mental fatigue and anxiety, potentially. People are so different, it's hard to pinpoint an exact thing, but certainly we would say that I am 100% certain that you would not be your best self, you wouldn't be able to be thriving because people that are driven by stability feel safe and calm and can perform at their very best and have attention to detail and all of those good things, which, as you rightfully said, it's almost the polar opposite of innovation. But
there is a juxtaposition.
There is a juxtaposition, and that's okay. That's one of the things that personality alone doesn't actually explain. We can be driven by two things equally, and duality exists. So it really does help the person understand themselves better and even to take some accountability for how that could play out. Because, for example, if somebody in the recruitment phase knew that they were going in and they're like, no, I've always wanted to work at a startup, I just have to, they would probably be the person, as long as their leader was supportive and said, okay, Kevin, why don't you champion putting in place health and safety? Can that be your hat? Please do that for us because there's no one else on our crazy team of wonderful innovators or transformers, because one of the other core drivers is transformation. And so if we've got a whole lot of transformation people, they would be losing energy by actually slowing down to take things with more care.
Okay,
so you'd be the perfect person.
And again, if my manager knew that, they knew that stability was my core driver, then I would be a good person to be given that responsibility, and it's work that I would enjoy doing. And that brings us to the next question, which then is around those conversations around health and safety, and here we're not talking. We're not talking about the hazards and risk in the workplace. We're talking about the risk to the individual. And as you mentioned earlier, it's quite easy to see that someone is physically exhausted, but very challenging to see if someone is mentally exhausted. And so what we want to do is set up a work environment where the chances of mental exhaustion are minimal. And so what sort of questions, how could our leaders interact with their staff, knowing their core drivers, to help reduce the likelihood of them getting the mental exhaustion that you spoke about?
Absolutely. So in terms of the report, it's extremely helpful because most leaders are not organizational psychology practitioners. And so many people will say, if they've used a personality-only report, and yes, they have their place, I'm not knocking them at all, but they tend to be a PDF and they sit in the inbox. And sometimes when the recruitment has happened, no one then passes it on to the leader. So in terms of keeping people engaged and looking after their human and psychological needs, there's a simple section, the last 2 pages of the report, take all the guesswork out. And it actually says, for example, these are the 3 things that the person is leaking energy and could be prone to mistakes if these three things are not addressed.
And
it gives a whole conversation starter.
Yeah. And if we're prone to mistakes, then accidents are more likely to occur.
Absolutely.
Which is what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
So that part of the report can give a leader some insights into how they approach their staff member and how they can relate to them, including ways to give feedback. And ways to give encouragement and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, that is exactly it. There was a client of ours that, was only working on the physical aspects of fatigue versus, the mental aspects of fatigue. And there was quite a few things that were going wrong with health and safety. Once they'd gone through identifying, emotional intelligence, which I'd like to call these days human intelligence, especially in the age of AI that we live in, it seems like our humanity and our human skills are more important than ever before. Mm-hmm. They just haven't had a framework. And so the Brightcore Drivers is that framework. It's an end-to-end. Yep. So once they went through the program, the health and safety incidence is reduced by 80%. 80%, 80 point something, but I can't remember the point. Yep. But it was 80%. So that was an incredible outcome. And I love the fact that we don't always know the exact percentage it's going to increase, but we do know that safety does increase and people start looking at what they can do. And it's a joint accountability. Yep. It's not just up to the leader. No. Leaders have enough on their plates. And I often will say to leaders, what's the hardest part of your role? And they'll say, it's not the IT, it's not this, it's not that, it's the people. And so it opens up a conversation. It's got very specific points of why it's important, what the percentage of the person's need is being met or not met, and then some practical things that they can actually do to address it. Okay. Once that person's tank is topped up, they are then able to have the discretionary effort, the energy to do the high performance and also the health, the health and safety checks. Because if people are too tired to be paying attention to that, and different things deplete us. Some people don't mind a good old-fashioned argument. Others, they find
that conflict doesn't
conflict
work for them.
will keep them up at night. So this is a real example of how fatigue, mental and physical, can happen. People will be lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking of a conversation that happened in the workplace, and they're thinking, oh, if only I'd said this, or only I'd said that, and they just play it out. They come home and they'll tell their loved one, what they're going through, and it just plays on their mind like a record. It goes round and round.
And that creates stress.
It creates massive stress, a lack of sleep, and we know what a lack of sleep has direct, impact on the work that we're doing in the workplace. So this gives a framework. I think one of the things that really does differ in terms and is helpful is that most people don't even know how they interpret the world sometimes. So there's a couple of ways that one can interpret an event that is happening. What happens in that activity once the person has done it, in their report, it actually shows how they're going to interpret it. Right. It is the one thing. You might not be able to change your core drivers, but you can change the way that you perceive, interpret, and respond to something. So
sort of the lens that you choose to view events with.
Yeah.
Question, there's 20 core drivers, if I remember. Is that right?
There's 23.
23, all right. So it's my bad mathematics. Are there core drivers? Let's see, I'll back up a little. I know that Brightcore Drivers can be used in the recruitment process, yeah?
Yes.
Are there core drivers that you could look out for that would indicate that someone would be an amazing health and safety professional? Or
yes.
On the contrary, are there core drivers that would suggest that someone perhaps wouldn't be such a great health and safety professional? Please tell us a little bit about that.
You're absolutely spot on. So there is a function in the dashboard, which the EMA has, and it is called a role blueprint. And in the role blueprint, the leader can read the job description. In fact, you can upload the job description. We have an AI trained agent that lives specifically in core driver framework land. And
wherever that is.
Wherever that is, that's Ricky. So Ricky, you upload the job description. You then create the what you think as a leader the person should be driven by.
Yep.
And very simply, you could actually ask Ricky, could say, she can create an advert that isn't generic, hit the ground running, make your mark. It would be specifically around those needs that are needed for that role.
Yep. And can you give us an example of what a couple of those needs could be?
Yeah. One of them would be flow.
Okay.
Flow for some people is so important. It's absolutely critical that they're able to, and they only thrive if they've got flow.
Yep. And what does that mean to have flow?
So the way we define flow is being able to sit down quietly, read data, come up with some solutions and not be interrupted.
Okay.
And if they are interrupted, if that need continuously is eroded, then they take longer. High performance doesn't happen. Because they get interrupted all the time. They get irritable, and the work just doesn't get done.
So in that instance, they would need, I'm sorry if I've interrupted you,
no,
but when that type of work is necessary, they would need a quiet space.
Exactly. Go grab a meeting room and have the leader support that. Some leaders aren't aware that that's the person's currency. That's like giving them a treat.
Yes.
Go and sit in the meeting room, or a hybrid day, work 2 hours from home or whatever, just focus on that, no interruptions. And then actually making the team aware of it. Hey, let's support Joe. Joe's working on a very important piece of policy or work. Let's support Joe. And the person just cracks through it and are able to, basically meet the brief and meet the task. And mistakes happen for many. If someone is driven by flow and they keep on getting interrupted, they're going to make mistakes, and it's not going to be a great piece of work. Other people don't care about flow. In fact, they want chaos, and they thrive when things are lively and people are chipping in, and they want the connection, they want the coffees, and while they're having a coffee and while they're talking,
they're working. They're still doing it.
They're still doing it, and the greatest ideas pop up. And they go like, "Oh, that was an idea. Oh, thank you for that." So the idea acted as a catalyst for them. So there's no better or worse driver, but for the role and for the person, there's definitely a optimal probability outcome of it. And we've got 6,500 heading for 7,000 reports. It's a strongly validated product. We've been working with a professor in recent years, and it's got stronger and stronger over time. So which is really good for us. We've got a 96% validity, which is really quite high.
And I mean, that sounds quite amazing. And for our viewers, that means that 96% of the reports come out
have been validated by the actual person.
Right.
We've got quite a rigorous process of checking, and it is a very rare case. And I think the interesting 1 or 2 times out of thousands of reports, the person might have done it at midnight or in the car park on their phone. They're like, don't do this in the car park.
Take time.
Take the time.
Get a little bit of flow and think about how you're responding to this.
For some people, they just absolutely nail the activity and 15 minutes and they're done. Other people go, no, I need a full half an hour. I've actually never thought about what do I need to be at my best.
It's interesting. So when I did it, and this was a couple of months ago, it took me about 45 minutes. And there was, I know, and I don't know, did I overthink it? I'm not sure. But I wanted to, it was really important to me that what came out could be the best idea or the best portrayal of perhaps who I was. So I spent a lot of time on it. And just so for our for our listeners, so it can be between 15 minutes to half an hour, 45 if you're a slow thinker like me. That's how long it takes. And what's amazing is that once you finish it, the report is...
It's automatically generated. It's there and it's available. You've got a choice if you are in enterprise mode. Your company would have fully accredited practitioners that are accredited and have gone through the 2.5-day accreditation.
Yep.
They would typically be in HR or learning and development or your leaders.
Yep.
So they'd be able to give you a one-on-one debrief if you wanted
Right,
to.
and I think the debrief is really important as well. So you read your own report and heaps of insights there. And when I read it, I was like, definitely, that's me. There was one part that confused me because it did say that, and I think you and I have already discussed this, it did say that I'm not necessarily someone that would like presenting in public, and yet this is kind of what we're doing here. But without going into any detail, you did explain your way through that, and that debrief with you was really helpful and provided additional insights.
Exactly. So, for example, with the nuance, a person that might not be, let's present in public with any old topic.
Yep.
People that are driven by innovation love talking about things that they care about, things that matter to them. And they are usually deep thinkers and have amazing facts and figures in their world. So, for example, my brother is in IT, and normally he wouldn't stand up and speak, but he'd be quite happy to speak at conference.
About IT.
IT. He loves it. His eyes light up and he's like, yes. And so it's always in the context. I think with personality, often they'll look at your top 2 only or top 3. The core drivers differ in that you actually need to look at the whole dashboard.
So all
there's
23 of them.
And there's 7. It distills down. There's about 500,000 different combinations. And it distills down to 7 main drivers and then lenses. Yes, it's still got the little nod to the personality still in the report there for people that still want to have a look at it, and that's useful. But it's when looking at the report, it's in context. With Ricky, if people are not wanting to, have a debrief, they can actually just ask Ricky the questions.
And Ricky's your AI agent.
Yeah, it's amazing. The other day, somebody, and it was a psychologically unsafe situation the person was in. Ooh, can't talk to, got to keep that all. They felt unsafe with their leader, and their leader was aware of it, but didn't know what they were doing wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
And they thought, they know that they're not meeting the mark. The person was becoming more and more disengaged, and they were starting to make so many mistakes.
Okay.
And some of them were health and safety mistakes as well as actually job description mistakes. But the leader was compassionate and gave access to the person to Ricky because they didn't want to actually ask the questions to a facilitator, even though they'd been on training. And the EMA offers amazing training, like the Ultimate Leader. And there's also customized training that also happens with groups. But they... and no one can actually see the answers at all. No one can see what the person has asked, so they feel completely safe. Yeah. And the person had just 24 hours access. I looped up with her this morning while I was driving, and she said to me she has a whole new understanding of how to connect. Yep. And she owned that it's actually a two-way street, a two-way street. So that was really valuable. And how that had worked, it didn't just look at hers in isolation. The leader had been open enough to go I don't know how to solve this. Right. Said, please use my profile as well. So very simply clicked on the leader's profile, clicked on their profile, and then asked the question. So it's not like ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot. The framework, the organizational psychology, positive psychology, the PERMA model, it's all in there. It's all in there. So it's like having a consultation, with a highly skilled practitioner. And it doesn't replace anyone because they'll come back and I'm quite sure that I'll have a conversation with them, a deeper one, a more pointed. So it's targeted learning. Yeah.
And in this instance, both individuals have gained a positive outcome from it. Because the leader wasn't quite sure what they were doing wrong. Yeah. The employee wasn't sure how their needs weren't being met.
Exactly.
And through Brightcore Drivers, they've been able to resolve that.
They have.
Yeah, that's
they
great.
Absolutely have, because at the heart of that, and going in, I would never have known it, and I've had 30 years and 4 degrees in this industry, and just having a conversation with both of them, honestly, I would not have figured out what actually was at the root or the core of the situation. It was a pace issue.
Yeah. And that's it. You found the core, they found the core, and then they're able to resolve it.
Yeah.
So look, this is. I think we could probably talk about this for another couple of hours. We don't have time to do that.
No.
Excuse me, but. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your expertise here.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
I've learned even more about Brightcore Drivers than I already knew before our meeting, which is fantastic. Hopefully we'll get you back in sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
You're very, very welcome. Appreciate you having you here. So that's the end of the podcast for today, everyone. Brightcore Drivers. It's not a personality test. If you want to learn more about how they can help you and your organisation and help the communication between leaders and their staff with respect to health and safety, then give us a yell. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, stay safe out there. Goodbye.